This is the Thursday, March 10th, 2022 meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustments and Appeals for the City of Denison. Meeting is called to order. Public comments. Citizens may speak on items listed on the agenda. The request to speak card should be completed and returned to the city clerk upon arrival prior to the board reaching the public comment section of the agenda. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise required by law. Comments related to public hearings listed below will be heard when the specific hearing starts. Public hearings. Citizens may speak on items listed on this agenda as public hearings. A request to speak card should be completed and returned to the city clerk or board secretary before the council or board considers the item listed under public hearings. Citizens' comments on public hearings are limited to 3 minutes. Item A, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on a variance to reduce the required number of off-street parking spaces from 10 spaces plus 1 space for each employee to a total of 6 off-street spaces located at 1030 West Crawford Street. Item number 2022-006V. Do we have some? Pardon me?
I was just going to speak on it.
Okay.
Well, he's got
Oh,
a,
I'm sorry.
to do B and C on your meeting procedure list there.
Okay. That's to be administered to the person who's going to speak, correct?
First, yes, the question under item B that's in italics, and then if there's nothing, then go to item C for those.
Gotcha. Before we open the public hearing, are there any requests for postponement or jurisdictional issues that anyone would like to raise? There being none,
Chairman and board, sorry, I do not have a request for postponement or necessarily jurisdictional issue, but I do just want to remind you of something that applies to all cases, not just the one that the public hearing was just open for. I'm the attorney for the City of Denison, and I just want to remind everyone that this body is a quasi-judicial body, and consideration of information received outside of this hearing is not appropriate, just as you wouldn't go to a judge in a court and lobby them outside of presence of other parties unless all the other parties were present. So just a reminder that in making any decisions today, you can only consider evidence and information presented to you during the public hearing today, and if you've received any information outside of the proceeding, you should disregard it in making your decisions.
all right, thank you. All right, is there anyone here that wishes to speak on this item?
Anyone who wants to speak, and including staff, should stand so he can administer an oath.
All right, raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony and evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Would you like to speak to us about this?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's okay. Sorry. We're a little all over the place this morning.
My bad.
If it's okay, I'll speak on it first, and then we can let the applicant.
Great.
Okay. So the applicant is requesting, excuse me, a reduction in the required parking, or asking for a variance to reduce the required number of off-street parking spaces for the use that they intend to have at the property located at 1030 West Crawford. The required parking spaces for this use is going to be 10 spaces plus 1 space for each employee, and they are asking for a total of 6 parking spaces, off-street parking spaces, to be allowed. This building is going to be utilized by the Homeless Empowerment Action Team, also known as HEAT, and they intend to remodel the existing structure to serve those that are in need of basic services. The property is constrained by Crawford Street to the north, Tone Avenue to the west, and then the railroad right-of-way just to the south. This hardship has caused it's made it difficult for them to provide the adequate parking spaces, and the 10 parking spaces just wouldn't fit anywhere on this property. As I mentioned, well, I don't know if I did mention this, I'm sorry. They'll be utilizing this west side of the property for that parking space. As you can tell by their site plan, they've got, I think, 5 parking spaces and then 1 handicap parking space. They do plan on remodeling there is a slab at the back side of that property that I think they have permission from the railroad to go ahead and utilize that space as part of their site. And once this parking space is, the issue with the parking spaces is rendered, they will move forward with remodeling that structure to fit the needs that they have for that use. The property adjacent to Crawford Street is zoned for local retail zoning district, which fits the use that they have for the property. And the back rear portion is zoned light industrial district for that railroad. Just to go over it again, applicant is requesting a variance to the required parking spaces of 10 plus 1 for each employee to a total of 6. An applicant plans to utilize that west side of that portion of the property for the parking. And staff recommends approval of this variance.
Do I ask you questions about this now?
You may.
It's my understanding that part of that property belongs to the railroad, is that correct?
Yes, the back portion.
So, is there any chance that they would want to reuse that property?
I believe they have a letter from the railroad stating that they are allowed to use that
We'll
property.
find out when
Yes, sir.
gentleman speaks.
Yes, sir.
All right, sir, would you like to address the board? Yes. State your name and the address.
My name is Rod Taccio. I'm the architect that did the site plan. If staff recommends approval, that's fine with me. If you have any questions about this, I'd like to try and answer them.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What is the expected occupancy during business hours of this place?
The business hours, 8 to 1. The business hours would be 8 to 1. And most of their traffic is going to be walk-in. This is for homeless people that they're a nonprofit organization trying to give services to the homeless community with regard to showers, washing machines, and food. So right now, the food kitchen that feeds those people is in a small building that doesn't even have a kitchen in it. And this new facility will have a kitchen and space for them to sit down and eat.
So do you know the occupancy load of the structure itself?
Diane, have you got that figured out?
No, I'm sorry, I don't
It's-
have that at this moment.
If it's 100 square feet per person, it would be about 30 people.
Okay.
And you have a letter from the railroad stating that you have the use of that property until ad infinitum?
Yeah, they have a lease.
Okay, very good. Appreciate your efforts to move the parking off to the side, because I know there are plans for for Crawford Street in the future for bike lanes or walking lanes, and I don't know what those plans are going to be, but this is certainly a step forward, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone have any questions for John? There being none, we thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve item A.
It's spelled out there.
Yeah. I move to approve the variance to reduce the required number of off-street parking spaces from 10 spaces plus 1 space for each employee to a total of 6 off-street spaces located at 1030 West Crawford Street. And I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? There being none, the motion is carried. Thank you. Right, moving on. I guess I should mention that we do have several receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on a variance request to the required minimum one covered parking space for property located at 920 West Day Street, case number 2022-013V. Now, at this point, I ask if there are people who wish to address this, or?
Chair, the statement under item B first, and then the oath.
All right. Okay, before we open the public hearing, are there any requests for postponement or jurisdictional issues that anyone would like to raise?
Chairman and Board, the city would like to preserve for the record the objection that the applicant is required to be the owner of the property, and we don't know that that is the case for this particular case, so we just wanted to preserve that objection and then let you proceed.
All right, thank you. Would you like to describe the situation for us?
Ms. York is still under oath.
Am I good to speak on it, Julie? Okay, thank you. Applicant is requesting a variance to the required minimum of one covered parking space that is required in the SF5 single-family residential zoning district. This property is for 920 West Day. That property does fall within this zoning district. The subject property fell in the residential infill overlay district prior to the repeal of this overlay district back in December 13th, 2021. Based on the property being located within this infill overlay, the requirement for the minimum of the one covered parking space was not enforced between September 21st, 2020 and December 13th of 2021. Once the residential infill overlay district was repealed, all property that fell within this infill overlay reverted back to the development standards required by the base zoning district. The applicant is proposing a two-car parking on a paved surface that was allowed during the residential infill overlay timeframe. Applicant is requesting this variance to the requirement of the one-car covered parking, stating that they started their financing and engineer work for the development of this property prior to the repeal of the infill overlay district. This is an aerial of the subject property. This was a survey provided by the applicant, and based on the information that was provided by the applicant, staff is recommending denial. Once again, the property is zoned SF5 single family 5 within this zoning district. It's a two-car parking requirement, with one of those being a covered parking space by carport or garage. And the applicant is instead proposing a two-car parking space or parking on paved surface. And I'm present for any questions that you have.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Do you wish to speak to us, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, come forward and minister the oath to you. Do you swear, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear the testimony and evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. State your name and your address.
Name's Brad Sylvester, 2120 Waterloo Place, Denison, Texas. I have this 920, 924 West Day, and 422 West Munson. We've done, 30 plus homes in the infield over the last couple of years with the overlay district. We was unaware of any changes. They did not bring them up to any of the builders. They said that since it was a zoning change, they weren't, it changed. I started getting these three properties ready early November. Right now, materials and everything takes so long to get. Engineering's backed up. I engineer my slabs. I go beyond and above just the normal, building procedures. Like I said, started back in November, was unaware of any changes. The policy went in effect, I believe, January 10th is what they told me. I went to pull my permits, I believe it's January 15th or 16th, and that's when I was aware of the building change. Like I said, we turned everything into the bank in November, bank, engineers, and several other, procedures to get this going. And then by the time it all got done, when I went to turn in my permit, it's January, 5 days after the rule went in effect that, I've talked to 10 other builders, only one builder was aware of the rule change because, there's a lot of these houses being built from the old policy. And, when I finally was aware of that, they said, the policy's changed, you're gonna have to do this. I have talked to probably over half the council members. Everyone I've talked to said, yes, I believe it would be all right to do these three. Moving forward, though, let's follow the procedures. Like I said, this will be the last three. I've still got several other lots, but moving forward, where I don't have engineered plans, banks involved, and everything else, I would be fine with, switching to a carport or the garage, which is required in whichever zone. But, since I've been going since November, like I said, banks are ready to close on the loans. I have material ordered for the specific projects. Like I said, there's 3 different ones. In that particular neighborhood on Day, in that block radius, there was 1 carport that I've seen and 1 garage, and that was in probably a 3 or 4 block radius. So it's not like these other houses on the street have what they're requesting. So it's kind of, it's not going to affect the neighborhood.
Any questions for the gentleman?
Did you already submit your plans before that, or was that just, you did that in January?
Well, I submitted my plans to the engineers and everything, like in November.
Yeah, to the city.
To the city, it wasn't until January, because if I don't have my engineered plans,
Right.
they just reject it, no matter what. So I couldn't go before the deadline, even if I would have known the change
Right.
and said, hey, this is what I'm doing, because if I don't have my engineering plans, since we do engineer slabs, they reject the proposal.
Do we know when this change went into effect?
So the council meeting was on December 13th, if I'm not mistaken. Julie, I think it hit the newspaper on December 17th, and I think that was when it was actually repealed.
Yes, the ordinance is published in the paper immediately following the council meeting, and the effective date is the date of the newspaper publication.
Which was before the time that he filed his plans.
If I'm not mistaken, it was December 17th.
17th. Well, I guess I was the first one to apply for a permit with this particular, because upstairs they told me it went in effect, January 10th. So I was unaware of that.
There's an old saying, timing is everything.
Yes, sir. And I agree. But
Your comment about the other homes in the area that don't have carports or garages, those probably were all built prior to these zoning regulations being in effect.
yes, sir.
I too drove down that area and I saw garages in the backyards. I saw driveways with no carports. I saw driveways with carports. It's all over the place. Unfortunately, you have to abide by the zoning laws that are in effect at the time you submit your plans.
And it's, like I said, I started on this project back in November, and, typically when the city has changed stuff in the past, they would sit down the builders. We pull 30-plus permits a year. They would sit down with us in the past and say, hey, this is what's fixing to happen. And none of that happened on this particular case. And, they said, well, it was a zoning change, so we didn't feel like we have to. And then, like I said, I've talked to several council members, and they were in agreement, saying that, they're in support of these 3 being done.
Unfortunately, all that happens outside of this board's purview, so there's not much we can do about it.
Okay.
Anyone have any questions or comments for the gentleman?
Diane, when were the notifications for the zoning change sent out to the owners?
So because this was a text amendment, I don't believe it was sent to the owners. It was published in the paper, and I think Julie can speak to that a little bit better than I can.
That's correct. Like when you change a piece of property, say from single family to multifamily, that's a direct district change applicable to that property. And notices go to the owner and to people within 200 feet of that property. This was not a change as to a specific property. This was a text amendment to Chapter 28 in the code, the zoning ordinance. So it's a citywide application, not a
Okay. So
target property.
In that case, you don't notify the owner, it just gets published in the newspaper?
That's correct. We would follow whatever the requirements are by the state
Yeah.
ordinance for text amendment changes.
Do you know when that was published in the paper?
I don't have that in front of me. I can see if I can get that date for you, though.
Like I said, I don't even receive the paper, to be honest with you. And like when they proposed this, when they laid the infield in, like I said, they called us into a meeting and said, hey, this is what we're about to do. I've been doing this with the city. We were one of the first to help, do the infield. Like I said, over the last few years, we pulled 20 plus permits with this particular deal. And then just to abandon it without telling any of the builders, I really felt that was unfair. And there was no emails sent out to us, no notice of changes.
Why there were no emails sent out? There was no change in the zoning and the planning. So it's still single family. I think it's code 7.5.
This particular one's the 5, but I mean, there were previously, we built a similar house right across the street 2 years ago. It was just lifting up a zone that they had, and then without telling anybody, it was unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, and unfortunately, we have to go by the zoning rules that are in place now. So like I said, timing is everything, and I get where you're coming from, but our hands are tied. We can't change the zoning rules. Anything else you'd like to say to us?
No, it's just, like I said, I have several people on board. I was shocked whenever I heard the city was not, because that's not what I was told before I approached today, so,
Now, Brad, you said additional 50 by 150 lots?
Well, this 920 West Day, we have the number 8 right next to it.
That's the next item, Mike.
And then 422 West Munson. Like I said, we've got these 3 lots, which we started in November. We were planning on doing these. I've got an additional 3 that I do not have anything, like as far as, engineering. I have probably total of probably 10 to 12 more lots, but these 3 particular, we've already done engineering, we've done banks, the bank's ready to close, they're just waiting on this. We've had, several, it's been in works for several months with several different companies. Brick company, window company, Main Street Lumber, Underwood's done all their stuff. Stuff's been ordered because everything takes time to get now. It's just, when the world changed, I was the first applicant to come forward and I guess ask for this particular, the house like we've been building for the last 5 years, and they said, well, the zone changed.
All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, if you may, just for the record, I would like to ask Mr. Sylvester a couple questions. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Howard.
Good, thank you. The Grayson Central Appraisal District shows Denison Day Street LLC as the owner of this property. Is that consistent with your understanding of
Yes.
ownership? Okay, are you a member of Denison
It's
Day?
Casey Shires and Spence Red Wine, and I'm helping them.
Okay. Your Honor, Chair, if you may, I would like to show Mr. Sylvester the certificate of formation and the entity information for the company. It does show Spence Redwine and Casey Shires, but it does not show Mr. Sylvester. I just want to see if he's
Thank you.
getting his documents. That's the entity certificate information, and that's the January 26th. So is it your testimony you're a member of
I'm doing the
Denison
work.
Day Street LLC?
I'm doing the work for them, and we've got several projects that we're working on together.
Okay, so you're not an owner of the property?
Not on this particular property.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Had I
No,
known- If I'd known they needed to be here, I would have got them here.
Understood, thank you so much. Chair, just for the record, I'm going to submit to the board secretary a copy of the application in this case and both of the documents that were just presented to Mr. Sylvester. I don't have any further questions, thank you.
I might add that we do have 3 letters of support on what you're doing on that property. And I've noticed, I think almost a month ago, that you had forms in place for concrete.
Well, it was, like I said, I've got the pad and everything built. We knew which one we're going. Pretty much, you can get up to forms before you really need anything done. But like I said, it's never been a problem in the past. So my guys were free, so they asked if I had anything to do. Usually a permit takes, less than a week. So.
All right, thanks, sir. Can I have a motion? Pardon? Yeah, sure. Just typical form letter, just checked off. Someone want to make a motion? Silence. I will entertain a motion from someone.
Well, I'm looking,
Do you want to discuss this further?
yeah, I think we should. I mean, I just don't, I mean, you did, I just don't think we can approve it, really.
No, I don't either. As I said, the rules are in effect already. It was published in the newspaper. He's been before the building committee or the building commission. I don't see how we can approve it. And you're going to see another one just like it next.
Yeah. So I'll make the motion.
Thank you, sir.
I'll make the motion that we do not approve.
You can read the motion. Mr. Whitmore?
Do that.
Sure.
So I'll move to deny the variance requested to the required minimum 1 covered parking space for property located at 920 West Day.
Do I have a second?
Just to add 924, that's it.
Pardon me?
Just to add his,
And there's 422 West Munson on there. Also.
This particular case is for 920.
Yeah, you
920.
can take it one at a time.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, sorry, sir, your request is denied. Joy, he has a right to appear before the court to appeal this, is that correct?
Yes, once the written decision of your motion is filed in the city clerk's office, which should happen by Monday, he's able to, it could be, it'll be on or before Monday, could be sooner, but once that's filed in the city clerk's office, you do have 10 days from that date to appeal to the district court, should you desire to do so, and you can get a copy of that order from the city clerk.
I'll do it with the partners and see if they want
Okay.
to proceed with lawyers.
Yeah. We just want to be sure you know it's
I'll let
a
them know.
quick deadline.
Thank you. All right, item C, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on a variance request to the required minimum one covered parking space for property located at 924 West Day Street, case number 2022-014V. Would you like to go over this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Similar to the previous case, the property is at 924 West Day. The applicant is requesting a variance to the required minimum one covered parking space for the residential zoning district of SF5, single-family residential. This property is just to the west of 920 West Day, and it also fell within the infill, and the applicant is requesting this variance for the similar reason of that they started their financing and engineering prior to the repeal of the infill. Here's the survey that shows that property and where their forms are for that property. And just to reiterate, property is zoned SF5, single family residential. Applicant is proposing a 2-car parking on a paved surface without a covered parking space. And staff is recommending denial of the variance request.
Sir, would you care to speak to us about this one? I would like to mention that we do have 3 letters in favor of this. Anyone like to see those? No?
Just for the record, on behalf of the city, I'll note the same objection as to ownership of the property.
Thank you. Any discussion or comments? All right, I would entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I move to deny the variance requested to the required minimum one covered parking space for property located at 924 West Day.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, then the request is denied. Thank you, sir. Okay, moving along. Item D, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on a variance request to the required minimum one covered parking space for property located at 422 West Munson Street, case number 2022-015V.
Thank you, sir.
I'll just say, for the record, everybody's still under oath and same ownership objection as prior cases.
Thank you, Julie. This is a variance request to the minimum one covered parking space for the SF5 single-family residential zoning district for property located at 422 West Munson. This property is zoned SF5, and it did fall within the infill overlay when that was in place. Since then, that infill has been repealed, and the property reverts back to the base zoning district of SF5. The applicant is requesting proposing a 2-car parking on a paved surface without a covered parking space, stating that they had started their financing and engineer work prior to the repeal of the infill. Based on this, staff is recommending denial. And I'm present for any questions that you have.
have someone to speak to this? No? Any discussion or comments?
I'll be putting the same exhibits in the record as the previous case.
Thank you. I might mention that we do have 2 letters of support for this. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move to deny the variance request to the required minimum 1 covered parking space for the property located at 422 West Munson Street.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? There being none, then the motion is carried. We've now reached the end of the agenda. Anything to add, or?
I do have, I don't know, Julie, if this is pertinent right now, but Felicia let me know that the notice was ran in the paper on November 21st and November 28th.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome, but that's it.
I'd like to welcome Mr. Zapata as an alternate board member. Thank you for serving. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Motion to adjourn.
And second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.